Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior professional with a deep understanding of women's health from Austin, Texas, USA, Kirsten Karchmer. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. What a lovely introduction, too. I appreciate it and so excited to have this conversation with
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Kirsten is the founder and chief executive officer of Conceivable, which is a company using AI to personalize women's health, fertility, and wellness care. So, Kirsten, before we come to Conceivable, a few questions for you. What early experiences or influences shaped your decision to dedicate your entire career to women's health?
It's a great question. I got diagnosed with MS when I was 20 years old,
Hmm.
and a friend of mine suggested that I go to an acupuncturist. And at that time, I was a linguistics professor, and I said, I'm a scientist. Like, I'm not going to an acupuncturist is like going to a psychic.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Why are you being so stubborn? Like, Western medicine doesn't have a lot of resources for you.
Hmm.
And like, even if it had a 10% chance of making a difference, would it?" And that acupuncturist said something to me that changed the course of my life. He said,
Hmm.
basically, when I was a competitive athlete when I was young, very serious athlete, so I trained a lot. And he said, look, when you were born, your disease was very weak. But when you were a young person, you trained and trained and trained and trained. Excuse me, your body was very strong and your
Hmm.
disease was very weak. It's early in the morning for me.
Hmm.
And he said, so body, strength is here, disease here. He goes, but then you trained and trained and trained and trained. And at some point around 18 or 19 years, you trained so much that you gave an opportunity for your disease to be stronger than you.
Oh, wow.
My job is to make because autoimmune disease, MS is autoimmune disease, and it's a disease where your body gets confused and attacks itself. For me, my brain and spinal cord. And he said, if we're going to help you to feel better or go under remission,
Hmm.
I need to make your constitution, again, restore it to be stronger than your disease. And
Hmm.
then there's a good chance that either your symptoms will improve, you'll go under remission or whatever. And then I was in remission for almost 30 years. And what to answer your question, what got me to women's health was I ended up becoming an acupuncturist. I was the first fertility acupuncturist in North
Wow.
America.
Hmm.
And and when I was studying reproductive medicine in acupuncture college, what I learned was that every single symptom that a woman experiences across the whole month is incredibly diagnostic.
Hmm.
In fact, if I meet a woman and she's like, I have this, all these problems, and I was like, just tell me about your period,
Hmm.
I can, in a few minutes, figure out, well, what are the underlying issues causing those problems?
Hmm.
If we fix these problems, they automatically fix those. And
How amazing. What a great
that's how,
response. Thank
thank
you.
you. Sorry, a little bit long for a shorter podcast, but that is how I got here.
No, no, that's fantastic. Uh, Kirsten, Conceivable has been recognized internationally. What key inflection moments made you realize you were onto something transformative?
Well, so two things. When we were building, so the reason I built Conceivable because I had three clinics in three cities, and we treated over 10,000 infertile couples.
Hmm.
And then I read a study that said less than 3% of couples could afford fertility treatments.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I cried. I was actually filled with shame because in the back of my mind, I always knew that our care prevented a lot of people. Just it's expensive, right? If you
Hmm.
get enough acupuncture, take herbs. And when I saw that, it kind of confirmed what I had been sort of holding myself accountable to for a long time.
Hmm.
And so I decided, like, could I build a digital twin of myself? That was the first hypothesis.
Hmm.
And so we set out to build an MVP that would be, as close to what would it be like if I came and lived at your house,
Hmm.
how I would talk to you, how I would plan your meals, how I would counsel you, all of those things.
Hmm.
And and the goal was like if the app is 50% as clinically effective as me, we should build it.
Amazing.
And so when the regression analysis was complete, the analyst came to talk to me, and he was kind of sheepish, and I was like, "What, did it not work?" And we already knew there was a lot of pregnancies, and he goes, "Oh no, it worked." And I go, "Well, did she, Kai? That's the AI. Did she get close to me in terms
Hmm.
of outcomes?" And he goes, "No." And I was like, "God, not even 50%." He goes, "No, no, no, you misunderstood me.
Hmm.
She didn't get close to you. You got close to her."
How amazing. How amazing.
So when we realized that the technology for $15 a month could outperform me for $1,500 a month, it was a
Mm.
no-brainer.
Mm. Wow. How do you define precision medicine within the context of women's reproductive health?
Well, I define precision medicine for all health, right?
Hmm.
What we're doing right now is we're treating symptoms. Even if you have a disease, even if you have diabetes, diabetes is a symptom of your life,
Mm.
right? It's very rare for you to just, be like diabetes does have a genetic component, but it's the lifestyle that turns it on, right?
Mm.
And so we're missing the opportunity to continually ask the question, why? Somebody tells me they have an irregular period. How do you
Mm.
fix an irregular period? I'm like, I don't know. Like
Mm.
you're world famous, fertility expert, reproductive expert. How do you not know how to fix an irregular period? I'm like, I don't know how to fix your irregular period because I don't know why you have an irregular period compared to the
Mm.
next 10 women. And those presentations are often completely different. Like with
Mm.
PCOS, a third of women have this. Some are overweight, some are underweight, some have
Mm.
crazy bleeding, some don't bleed at all, and so on. And
Mm.
so precision medicine is about taking the time to interview a person or assess a person with ridiculous detail, but continually asking why. So if I said, how's your sleep at night? And you're like, oh, it's not that good. Okay, so a doctor would say you have insomnia. I would
Mm.
say, can you not fall asleep, stay asleep, or wake up rested?
Mm.
Then you're like, because they're all different problems caused by different things. So that's how we define precision medicine. That's the
Mm.
kind of medicine that we think all people on the planet deserve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what gaps in conventional fertility care led you to believe that technology-driven integrative solutions were necessary? I mean, I just love what you told me about your digital twin, but why?
So I think that the gaps are enormous. First of all, most, at least in women's health, most reproductive endocrinologists and OBGYNs are not trained in this idea of like a whole systems approach. But
Hmm.
women's health is inherently a whole systems approach.
Mm.
And so that's the first thing that I saw. Like women would, they'd have an irregular period and the doctor would say, let's put you on birth control pills to regulate your period. I'm like, but birth control pills can't regulate your period because they block ovulation. If
Mm.
you don't have ovulation, you don't have a real period. There's no regulation happening.
Right.
So, the biggest gap for me is one, women really need a lot more care,
Mm.
right? It's too fast. They're rushed. The doctors are gaslighting them. They're not listening to them. But also, they need that follow-up care. So, what we built in Conceivable is we built a virtual care team inside of the app. So, not
Mm.
only do you have access to AI version of me, but you have a chef, a therapist, a nutritionist,
Mm.
a supplement formulator, and a data analyst.
Mm. Amazing. How does technology help women become more aware of physiological signals that the healthcare system often ignores?
I think that there are a lot of technological interventions that are available to women. Most of them, I think, are complete garbage. You can see I'm strong. I have strong opinions. That
Hmm.
we have a lot of fertility trackers, period trackers, fertility monitors. They're quite expensive. They're
Hmm.
quite injurious to women because what they do is they tell women, here's your estradiol number. Here is your luteinizing hormone.
Mm.
That's it. Here's your progesterone. And they don't even say if it's good, bad, or ugly. And then the women are texting me and sending me DMs like they'll send a screenshot of like all these numbers, like, what does this mean and what do we do with it? What we need to be doing is we need to be looking at all of those numbers in concert.
Hmm.
So how do we understand what's the relationship between those numbers? Why are those numbers happening? And what are the interventions that we can provide to her that mostly she can do herself
Mm.
to repair those numbers, to improve the presentation? But if you look at them in isolation, it's very hard. If you just
Mm.
look at like, oh, the progesterone is slightly low. Why is that? There's a joke, a funny dad joke that says, um, what do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhinoceros?
Hmm.
And the answer is LFINO.
Okay. Okay.
And that's
Okay.
kind of how I feel when people are like, I've had 16
Yeah,
miscarriages. What's
yeah, yeah.
wrong? I'm like,
I know.
LFINO. I
I
don't
know.
know. So in my head, I always have this little joke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kirsten, how do you evaluate when nutraceuticals should be standardized versus personalized for women's needs?
I think that women in general who are trying to get pregnant, all of them need to be taking a high quality prenatal and a high quality omega, and especially fish oil, because if you're buying a cheap fish oil, it's probably coming from polluted waters and it's
Mm.
not refrigerated, it's not
Yeah.
processed, which then it actually hurts your fertility because now instead of reducing inflammation, rotten oil will cause inflammation.
Mm,
Apart from that, I don't think they should take anything else. Everything else should be personalized, which is
mm,
why we created a tool in our app and on our website that women can just come, they can fill out an assessment, and we'll make personalized packs for them.
mm, mm.
That way
Many,
we know the
sorry,
dose, we know where it's
correct.
sourced from, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're right. I mean, there is a lot of supplement available, and a lot of fish oil that's coming from all over the world. And it's often said Nordic fish oil is supposed to be the best.
I
But
agree. I like Nordic a lot. Actually, it's
mm,
very high quality.
yeah,
Nordic, I mean, our supplements are the quality of sort of Nordic, Metagenics, Thorn,
correct.
really looking to get the highest quality, but we can deliver 8 different supplements for
Wow,
$109.
wow,
So
wow.
that's really what Nordic, one bottle of Nordic is like $80. So
Correct,
it's a good deal.
correct, correct. Kirsten, many women self-supplement, often without guidance. What risks do you see in the unregulated nutraceutical market, and how should this be addressed?
You know, as someone who owns a supplement regulations, they're touchy, right? It's not, I don't even think it's so much about supplement recommendations
Mm,
because even if the supplement is approved for some, it can't be approved for a condition because then it becomes a pharmaceutical.
mm,
But I think actually the biggest problem is TikTok and Instagram because you have women on TikTok showing like a baby a bottle of Geritol
mm,
and shaking it and saying, Geritol, you wouldn't believe it. This is what my grandmother took. This is a baby in a bottle. I took this and I got it pregnant in 4 weeks, right?
mm,
But Geritol has a ton of really low quality iron in it. That's
mm,
old people become anemic, and that's why Geritol is really good. That person probably got pregnant because she was severely anemic.
mm,
If you're taking a high quality prenatal, it already has the full daily requirement for iron. And if
mm,
you're taking another supplement on top of that, you're overdosing, which now you have hurt your fertility.
mm,
And so this, when women are self-selecting supplements, I mean, there's some things like vitamin D and things like that that are not going to hurt you. But for example, another thing a lot of women take is myo-inositol.
mm,
And plain myo-inositol is great for people who are trying to get pregnant. But when you add dichloroinositol to it, which is what we use a lot for women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome with high testosterone,
mhm,
that little bit of dichiro lowers the testosterone. Only 2% of the population have high testosterone.
mm,
90% of the population who are taking this product are taking the wrong one
mm,
because they are unknowingly lowering their testosterone. And most women will be like, great, I don't need testosterone. But actually for the eggs to function, we need a tiny bit of functional testosterone. So if you lower your testosterone, you actually are hurting your fertility.
mm. Wow. Thank you. You speak about biobehavioral interventions. What does the term really mean in a clinical context?
Well, in a I mean, in a human context, it means lifestyle.
Mhm,
In a clinical context, it means drinking more water.
mm,
It means prescriptive food, right? It means education about the appropriate amount and type of exercise and duration, and then monitoring that.
mm,
For us, what I feel like is what I like to do is I like to make a hypothesis of what's wrong with the person, give them some biobehavioral interventions, supplements, lifestyle, diet, all of those therapy. Then we watch for 1 month and we expect to see about 25% improvement across the
mhm,
board. If we don't see that, then the algorithm has to go back and figure out,
mm,
is there a different intervention that's more appropriate? Did she just not do the intervention? If not, why?
mm,
Like if you don't have cervical discharge and you don't drink water, the first step, it's very straightforward, drink water because
mm.
it cervical discharge can be a sign of dehydration.
Right.
But if after 1 month she still doesn't have dehydration, the app notices that and says, "Hey, I noticed that you still aren't having any cervical discharge. Were you able to up your hydration?" No.
Mm,
There's two pathways to understand that. The first one is, are you just forgetting? That is a behavioral intervention.
mm,
No, I'm not thirsty. That's
mhm,
a clinical intervention. Something's wrong if she's not thirsty. That's a symptom that's telling us we need to then we have to figure out like, well, what are the questions that we ask to, clarify that.
mm. Wow, well said. What role do physiology and emotional regulation play in a reproductive outcome?
Hugely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's no data that show that stress causes infertility. I'm more interested in correlations because there are only a few things that cause infertility, but there are many
Mm-hmm.
things that are correlated. And when you
Mm.
stack them together, you start making the person have significant less fertility, not by any one of those things, but the culmination of those. And so, what we want to be doing is looking at, I totally lost my train of thought. Would you repeat your question?
No, so I said, what role do
Oh,
stress
yes.
physiology?
Stress. So the thing is that again, stress hasn't been shown in the data to cause infertility. But what stress does when we are stressed, when we are anxious, when we are worrying, when we are Googling, like, oh my God, what's going on? We go into flight or fright.
Mm.
Once we go into flight or fright,
Mm.
we start pumping out a tremendous amount of adrenaline, which is very inflammatory to every cell and tissue in our body. Then, to compensate, we produce a lot of cortisol. The
Mm.
cortisol causes belly fat. That's the number one reason women don't want to be stressed. But the second reason for their fertility is cortisol and progesterone are made from the same substrate. When you have very high cholesterol, I mean cortisol, you don't have enough resources to produce adequate progesterone
Mm-hmm.
to produce a good enough lining and to stay pregnant.
Mm.
And so when we're in flight or fright, the other thing is we're burning through resources,
Right.
right? Because our body is like, we might have to kill a tiger, ramp up for the worst. And people are sometimes in flight or fright all day, every day,
Mm.
and it's draining their resources and draining their adrenal glands. And the data are very clear that fatigue is highly correlated with infertility and
Mm.
even more correlated with miscarriage.
Mm. Wow. You have researched the mechanisms of mind-body healing. How does the science shape your protocols?
Yeah, well, so I love science. Even though I was a trained acupuncturist, really I love the data around it. And with stress, the data, the best piece of data is to look at heart rate variability. That is not
Mm-hmm.
heart rate.
Mm.
Heart rate variability is a measure of your resilience. It's the strongest predictor of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And you want it to be around, I like to see it around 100. Most people will tell you if it's 50, that's fine. But again, people will tell you if you bleed for 10 days, that's fine too, right? I'm looking for optimal.
Mm.
And so when it's 100, what that tells us is that maybe, we're sitting on this show right now, and one of us, there's a loud explosion somewhere. Both of us are like, what was that? We
Mm.
both immediately go into flight or fright.
Mm.
But then I'm like, actually, it was just the garbage man. He backed into, a bunch of metal, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, so there's no danger. In 15 to 40 minutes, both of us, if we were resilient, would downregulate, get out of flight or fright, get back and rest and restore.
Mm.
The person with low heart rate variability stays in flight or fright. So the faster that we can identify that problem, the faster we can start intervening with therapy, with breath work, with meditation to raise that resilience so that those things are not working against her.
Mm. And what role would AI play in diagnosing or addressing hidden factors affecting fertility?
In my company, it does everything because the
Mm.
AI is basically me, right?
Okay.
So what's able, and you can see the AI beat me,
Mm.
right? Was more effective even with 25 years of clinical experience. And what AI does better than humans in this particular instance is, like I said, there are many, many, many data points that a woman can share with us.
Mm.
The AI is able to pattern match, organize, remember, never forget, understand, and diagnose the problem, teach her about the problem, and then teach her how to fix it.
Mm.
But in my clinic, I'm going to get distracted. She's going to come in and she's going to tell me three symptoms. Then she's going to start crying. Then I'm going to talk her down because of that. Then we're going to talk about other things. And I'll get 70% of it. The
Mm.
other thing that AI can do that I can't do is the AI can sit in her back pocket every single day and talk to her.
Mm.
We are building some face scan technology right now, which I'm extremely excited about. Women who are trying to get pregnant need to take their temperature in the morning. They don't want to do it. So we're building some technology that in the morning when she wakes up and is just laying in bed, she can
Mm.
hold up her phone and it literally just goes with it with her camera and collect her heart rate variability, VO2 max,
Mm. Mm.
body composition, and temperature, so
Mm.
that way we can be monitoring all of those things. Then, if the heart
Mm.
rate variability is low, then it sends a message to the therapist. Hey, her HRV is really low. Come up with some strategies to help to raise that, talk to her, and intervene.
Mm. Amazing. What ethical challenges arise when dealing with intimate biological and behavioral data collected through the various fertility apps?
This is a tough question because privacy, especially in the US, is incredibly important. Many other countries too, is incredibly important to women because it can be criminal. Your reproductive health can be criminalized now. So it's very dangerous. So we are so committed to privacy first that with a little bit more traction, we're going to just build our own language model so that
Mm,
we can ensure that their data is protected.
mm,
What you see, the problem is with other fertility monitors and trackers, they are tracking and aggregating massive amounts of incredibly valuable data.
mm,
And companies like Clue and Flow have already, I mean, I think Flow got fined $57 million last year for
mm.
data breaches and selling data. So it is very compelling, right? When you have an app that doesn't make a ton of money and then your
Yeah.
data that you're sitting on is worth $1 billion to not sell it. But it is unethical to do that and it's
Mm,
wrong and it's injurious to women. So
I agree with you. I have time for two more questions for you. If you could redesign women's healthcare infrastructure from scratch, what pillars would you prioritize?
well, so with the Conceivable app, the long-term goal, like we're entering in fertility.
Mm,
But it's actually what we're building is the first operating system for women's health because we're basically building the solution to your question.
mm,
So on the back end, the software that runs the fertility, we call it instead of app because there'll be one app experience. On the back end, there are 9 different experiences,
mhm,
starting with age 7 all the way up to age 90, in which we will, especially before, so what we want to do differently is, women, young girls are not prepared for their first periods. No one's talking about it. They're really afraid of it. They're really ashamed about it. On my TikTok, I talk to girls a lot about first periods, and they'll say, I got my period. I don't know what to do. I was like, go tell your mama. Like,
mm,
I can't, I'm too ashamed. That
mm.
happens so often.
Wow. Wow.
And that shame impacts how women care for their own reproductive bodies, their ability
Mm,
to talk freely to their doctor about,
mm,
all of their intimate parts and things like that. And so we want to have very period positive, body positive, sex positive, like really get them ready for a successful first period, care
mm,
for their periods, help them with PCOS, endometriosis, help them get pregnant, stay pregnant, have a successful postpartum,
mm.
perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And that care team will be the same age as you wherever you are. So if you're seven
Wow.
years old, Kai comes in as a 7 year old. If you're
How
90,
amazing.
I get changed into a 90-year old so that
How
you feel
amazing.
like for your life, this team has been with you, right? And we're able to really build a very valuable care team relationship with that person
Hmm.
over their life.
How amazing. And my last question for you, Kirsten. Where do you see precision women's health heading over the next few years? Pharmacogenomics, AI-based hormonal modeling, or something we haven't even imagined yet?
I'm sure it will go there. I hope that it doesn't. I mean, we can use AI in so many ways. We're using AI in women's health to mammograms now. A colleague of mine just launched a company that they can identify tumors from mammograms 5
Hmm.
years earlier.
Wow.
That is going to save so many lives. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's barely even in situ, right? And better able to identify endometriosis. I hope that we're able to do more diagnosis. Like, we do know that like menstrual blood has a lot of diagnostic relevance, but we haven't
Hmm.
really be able to harness it. Like, can we diagnose endometriosis, which currently can only be diagnosed by surgery? There are some theories going on that maybe we can identify and address it through menstrual blood.
Hmm.
But I still think that what we do at Conceivable is the first line of defense. I think that
Hmm.
if we had every woman understanding her menstrual cycle, what it's signaling to her, and how to fix it, just in general, we would have a lot less women's health disease because every menstrual health condition that women can experience significantly increases her risk for the diseases likely to kill her: diabetes, heart disease, estrogen dependent cancers, and stroke.
Hmm. Wow. And on that note, Kirsten, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been for me, my viewers and listeners. Thank you for everything that you're doing through Conceivable for women's health. And I just love the way you explained it, from that this is not just applicable for women of a certain age, but from women who are 7 years old to 90 years old. And your guy is going to actually talk to them in the same age group profile. I sincerely hope one of these days your digital twin will speak to multiple language in multiple languages to
Already
multiple
can.
people. It already can. There you are.
So it
So
asks like where you live and then
mm,
asks if you have a particular, or if you start speaking a different language, it does that too. Go ahead. One
fascinating.
thing that I do want to say is
Yeah,
if someone's listening and they're trying to get pregnant or they know somebody who's trying to get pregnant, we just created a new community in which I put all of my resources for free. And I'll send you the link for it because you probably
please,
don't have it.
please.
And there you can listen to my book for free. You can watch all of my courses. The app is basically on pause for 10 weeks. We just pulled it to fix some really critical things that were going on. So
Mm,
while everybody's on pause, I'm giving you everything that I have there for free.
fascinating. But thank you again, Kirsten, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.